G'day, well I thought I'd better give you a bit of an update on the trip from Port Macquarie to Coffs Harbour. Left Port Macquarie at 8:14, I think they logged me on the Marine Rescue at Port Macquarie, and went out across the bar. No problems at all, it was perfectly flat. A bit of a strong current comes in though, so you know we struggle a bit against the current, even at high revs, but we got out okay. It was a bit of a patch there where we're only doing about 2 knots. But once we got through that, we were fine. And there was just some big swell as we went out, but nothing remarkable. And I got some video GoPro footage of that. But once we were out, it was southwesterlies and strong southwesterlies. And I was expecting that, and I decided that I'd just go on the headsail alone. I wasn't going to worry about the main because it was forecast to get up to about 30 knots. Well, I guarantee it probably was gusting at that at times. Yes, so it was a bit of a wild old rolly sail north because we didn't have the mainsail to steady us, and we just did the best we could, and little Cachalot did the best she could. Most of the time was doing at least 5.5 knots or so, and at times got more than that. But went into the night, and the wind had eased off a little bit, and we were fighting the East Australian current, which is really a real problem off this coast when you're heading north. So it was a very slow trip, and what I was expecting our ETA at about 2000, 8 o'clock, but of course we didn't get anywhere near that. So by the time we eventually got there and into the harbour was at about 11 o'clock. So 2300, and I had to update the Marine Rescue and advise them of our new ETA. But we came in to the harbour okay, and the good thing about Coffs Harbour, as you'll see in the video, is that the entrance is quite wide. There's no bar, but that swell really rolls in, and so you tend to surf in a bit. So we came in and managed to get the headsail down okay. But then coming in at night, in a harbour that I'm not familiar with, I have been here before, but it was about 17 years ago, and it was in daylight, and I certainly couldn't remember much of that. And that's when I went into the marina. But I'd read up and done my research, and so I went looking for the 2 public moorings that are alongside the main pier, and both of them were taken. There were 2 boats on those moorings, so I then had to come out of there. But just going in there, I went very close to the shore into the rocks because you couldn't see a thing, and I was just following the chart plotter. But I managed to then come out of that little bay and went around to the other side of the pier, and there was a yacht anchored there, permanently anchored by the look of it, but a strong anchor light. And that was another area that was recommended to anchor on different web pages like Zulu. But that would be in ideal conditions, because I'd also read that a lot of boats are dragged on that anchorage because there was from that anchorage because there was a lot of kelp around. But I was so tired, and so anyway I got the anchor down in about 8 metres of water and put out about 50 metres of chain. I wasn't planning to be dragged anywhere, and we were securely embedded. I bedded the anchor in, and we were nice and secure. And but the problem was that the swell just kept rolling in all night, and I had probably one of the most uncomfortable nights I've ever had on Little Cachalot. And that's saying something, because Bateman's Bay was another poor anchorage, but this was even worse. So I got through the night. I had no sleep. I was just absolutely buggered, and the forecast was for light northerly winds. So I knew I wasn't going anywhere, and I wasn't able to get on those public moorings. The people hadn't moved. They were supposed to only be on there 24 hours. Well, it was a very, very long 24 hours. So I decided to ring the marina and see if they had a spot, and luckily they were able to get me in. I was on a bigger berth, but that was okay. They reduced the price a little bit, and so I just up anchored first thing in the morning. Was pretty buggered, and then motored in and tied up. It only took me about 10 minutes to get in and tie up, and which is where we are now, tied up at the end of B Arm in Coffs Harbour Marina. So there's little Cachalot tied up in the marina, and we'll go for a bit of a walk and have a look around first, and then I'll give you a bit of a background and give you a bit of the story. The story of this morning is about the owner of this boat and me. The boat's called Moon Dance, and it's directly opposite where Cachalot is, and the owner is Andrew. And Andrew is going to see this, and I don't even know Andrew's last name, but he is the most amazing bloke and was so helpful to me. And Andrew will be watching this because he's going to follow the YouTube channel, so good on you, Andrew. Anyway, let me tell the story of what happened this morning. So, as you can see, there is a headsail there on Cachalot, but that's the Yankee. And I decided this morning to change over the sails because we've got strong winds tomorrow, and I wanted to be able to use both sails as we head north and get maximum speed, so I changed down to the Yankee. Well, that was no problem. I set it all up and put it on the halyard, put the halyard on, or I thought I had it on properly, and then I've got to stop moving this camera when I'm trying to talk. But then I connected the halyard onto the head there, as you can clearly see, that's the head. And decided to put it up and see what it looked like. And I had actually had it up when I first bought the boat, and I checked all the sails, but I hadn't actually sailed with the Yankee. I probably should have on a couple of the legs, but this time I definitely decided to change down to the Yankee. So I connected the halyard and pulled it up and pulled the sail up, and next minute, whoop, it came disconnected, and up went the halyard right to the top of the mast. And I thought, oh no, that's it, you know, another halyard up at the mast, what am I going to do? And then I looked across, and Andrew, who I hadn't met at that point, he was on his boat getting ready to go out for a sail. And luckily his mate Steve hadn't arrived, so he had a little bit of time. So I just said to him, asked him if he had a bosun's chair, which he did, and asked him would he mind winching me up the mast, which was a heck of a lot to ask. But and unfortunately we got no video of it. As we said, we had to put the GoPro, strap the GoPro on, but we didn't have time to do that. So we got out he brought the bosun's chair over, we connected it up, and we did everything right. We put a second line as an emergency line, which we ran onto the other winch, the two winches there on the mast. And you'll see that on this side's the main halyard winch, and that's what I put the chair connected and me connected to that one. And onto the other side of the mast there, on the port side, you'll see the other winch, and we just run an emergency line there. So what he would do, and trouble with that winch too, we get a bit of an override. So we just started winding up by stages. He was then able to tighten up on the emergency line, belay that off onto the cleat. Then if he had an override, he was able to take it out. And he did an absolutely fantastic job and slowly hauled me all the way up to the top of the mast. And like I said, I wish I had footage, but you'd have to use your imagination. And obviously when I got up to the spreaders and was able to stand on them, it took a lot of the pressure off. But but he did a great job. And the poor bugger, I didn't realise at first, but he ended up getting a blister on his hand until he realised that he needed to put a glove on, and he went and grabbed a glove and put that on. But it was just such a wonderful thing for him to help me out with, and I really appreciate everything you did. Andy or Andrew is just terrific, mate. And so I got up, grabbed the halyard, clicked it onto the chair, and then he just lowered me down, and so that was all good. And so we then connected it on, and I put the Yankee up, this time making sure that was well and truly connected properly. And that's something now, of course, that I'm going to check once, twice, 10 times before I pull the sail up and make sure she's really connected. I just obviously didn't have it, you know, it's one of those little clips, snap shackle, isn't it? A little snap shackle thing. But and once they're in, they're usually pretty good, and that was the first time that ever happened to me, but I won't do that again. So that was my meeting with Andrew, and he went off with his mate Steve. Steve arrived, and they went off for a sail today, and then they came back about an hour ago, and I helped him tie up, and then we and I bashed him with all my stories, bashed him with all my stories. And but a lovely guy, we got along really well, and he's going to follow the channel, as I said, and also look at my Facebook page, Greg Curry Sailing, because I was telling him a little bit about the book and the story of my book, and didn't really get a chance to tell him much about the trip to Africa on little Becca, but he'll be able to find that and read about that on Greg Curry Sailing. And so will you if you're watching this, if you haven't actually heard anything about that. Anyway, this is the arm I'm on. This is B arm, and we're going to head that way in a moment. And the only trouble with here at Coffs is you've got to walk a long way to get to the amenities block, but I'll show you that. So we'll just go for a bit of a walk down here. I won't, because I haven't got a stabiliser, I might just stop and then I'll record a bit more when I get down further. That's Muttonbird Island, which is actually at the entrance to the harbour, and I probably won't go for a walk right up to the lookout, but I'll go up and show you the entrance to the harbour. That's a pretty good philosophy for life, isn't it? Stay on track. There's the entrance where I came in night before last, and it was still enormous swell, still blowing at least 25 knots, gusting probably 30 as I came in and came around the corner there. There's no bar here, which is the good thing, but unfortunately the swell sort of didn't disappear. So I came in the dark, and there's two public moorings there. You can see a boat on one of them, and I went looking for those two public moorings. Unfortunately they both had boats on it, and so then I had to anchor, and so I anchored. I knew that you could anchor where that boat is anchored, way over there. You can see it, yep. And I anchored just between him and the main pier, but I'd also read that the anchorage wasn't a very good anchorage, and it was notorious for people dragging and also for the swells. Well, no problem with dragging. I obviously must have managed to get some sand, and I put out a lot of chain, I think about 40 metres in about, or 50 metres maybe, even in about 8 metres, 9 metres of water. So we had no problem at all with dragging, but I would have had to have spent one of the most uncomfortable nights ever, and I keep saying that. And because you may not be able to see it on this video, but even with those swells, which are nowhere near as big as they were the other night, they come rolling in and they roll all the way to that anchorage, and then you get a back swell as well. And I ended up having a really bad night. I didn't sleep at all. So, and because the weather wasn't looking good for the next couple of days, I decided that was it. So the next morning I rang and got a berth in the marina. Luckily was able to get one and came in. And as you can see, I just had to go from there across and into the marina. And there's a little Cachalot. You might be able to see her on the end there, right on the very end. And that's where we ended up. And that's where we are now. Now I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to go up the hill or not. It's an enormous climb, but we'll see. Look, I don't think I'll go up to the top. I'm just a little bit weary after climbing the mast today, and it'll be a lovely view, but anyway, I'll think about it for another couple of minutes and then decide. There's the city of Coffs Harbour way over there. Coffs Harbour's quite a big place these days. Marina's just over there. And there's heading north, where we're going to go tomorrow, and probably in a lot breezier conditions, hopefully, but I hope it's manageable. As you can see, it's a very grey old day today. but a lovely bit of sun coming through then. Through there it's nearly, it's about 4:30, heading towards darkness, but it has been a freezing day today. Okay when the sun's out, but when I went to have lunch and it was overcast and it was absolutely freezing, as it was about 2 degrees Celsius this morning, which is pretty nippy. And I was talking to a guy when I was waiting for lunch, and he said the same thing. He said it's probably the coldest day they've had this year, which is really saying something because they've had some pretty cold winds through here, like most of New South Wales coast has had over the last couple of weeks. Well, I'll leave it there and I'll get back to you when we get down lower. But as I'll just scan back around again. Off in the distance at the end of that path that goes right along, you'll see some buildings. That's where the amenities block is. She's very, very rough out here today. 30 knots, strong wind warning. At least we're running with it, but oh boy, is it really blowing. See it, but directly astern is a catamaran with a big blue and white spinnaker. I'll get him as he comes closer, but he was tracking it right for me. And I tried to call him on the radio and he didn't respond. So he's going to clear us now, and I'll get a shot of him as he comes closer. But it's pretty scary when you've got a catamaran doing probably about 12 knots or something like that, at least, under spinnaker bearing down on us. But I'll show it to you in a minute. Catamaran didn't pass quite as close as I thought he would. He's off there in the distance. You probably looks a long way away, but he's actually not very far away at all from us. And I don't think he's over there is Yamba, and I don't think he's going into Yamba. He may be just coming inside us and continuing on up the coast like we are. Pretty grey old showery dawn, although we haven't had showers yet, but hang on, I'll show you the other side. You'll see what I mean by black rain clouds. Look at that. So yeah, it's just dawn's arrived on our last day on our sail, we hope, on our sail to Southport. And that's Byron Bay, that's Cape Byron there, and the lighthouse, and right behind it is Byron Bay. Probably a little way away from it for you to see it all. That's where we're heading up there, and we're a little off course. I'm going to change course. Sun's finally out, except that there's these big storms, a whole line of storms out at sea, but luckily they're all running north away from, parallel I guess to the coast, and I'm in between them and the coast, so hopefully we're not going to get much, or if anything at all. So here we are. It's now, that's Mount Warning way over in the distance there. You probably can't see on the GoPro, which is warning of the reefs that are coming up ahead of me. But way in the distance up ahead there is the Gold Coast. We are nearly there. I don't believe it. This is nearly the end of the voyage. So my plan is to go across the through the Southport Seaway this afternoon, and I have to wait for the tides to getting going tide, and so then I'm going to go in and around behind Wavebreak Island, for those who know that, which is just inside the Seaway, and anchor there for the night and sleep and sleep and sleep. And then I'm going to take off tomorrow morning because there's a strong wind warning tomorrow, but I'll be inside in protected waters, and it'll be southeasterly right behind me, which will be great for the passage up the inside between Stradbroke and the mainland, and get up to Moreton Bay and then into the berth at Manly, and that's it. So just 2 days I suppose left, but it's been a really long night. As you can probably see, I'm looking pretty haggard, but it was freezing cold again, and it was wild and woolly, very, very rough conditions, and it was extremely long sail, about 130 miles. So, but we're nearly there. We're in Queensland at last. That's the border over there somewhere. I'm a little bit far out because of I had to go around the danger reefs, but we're now actually in Queensland. That's Mount Warning in the background, and there's the Tweed River entrance. Actually, maybe we're not in Queensland just yet. Point Danger should be along there somewhere, just about there, although you probably can't see any of this. But anyway, we're just about in Queensland. So, Cachalot, welcome to Queensland. My little girl, you've made it this far. We've just got to make it a bit further. We've just got to get in across the bar and the entrance to Southport, which is the Southport Seaway. And right over in the background there, we're heading towards is Surfers Paradise. You can tell because of all the huge towers. But it's been a pretty eventful 24 hours. Oh dear. Anyway, we're just about there. I'll try and get some film if I can of the passage in, but we'll just see how it goes. I've got to concentrate on getting in there, which is the most important thing. And the other thing, you're not going to believe me, but yep, 2 more whales came up right beside us, just out there, and one of them had this hooting sound, and I've never ever heard that at all. That's probably people who know whales probably know all about it, but and it scared the crap out of me again and again. I didn't get it on any sort of camera or on my phone, GoPro, any camera, because I didn't have time. It's too quick. Anyway, another exciting experience. Here we are coming up to the berth. You don't know how good this feels.